Hey, Justin here. In this video, I want to walk you through the 80-20 analysis so you know exactly how to analyze data and get a full 80-20 analysis so you can start to take action in your business. I've got the 7 steps to do the 80-20 analysis here for you, and I'm going to take you through each step. Now, just to set the framework here, I'm using Google Spreadsheets, but you can use any type of spreadsheet to do this. And in this example, I'm using sales by customer as the data. But it could be any data set from QuickBooks, from other accounting systems, from Google Analytics, you name it. It can be any type of data. And a lot of times when you're going to be doing an 80-20 analysis on that kind of data set, a lot of times you'll have a lot of columns with different types of data in it. And anytime you're doing an 80-20 analysis, you're really focused mainly on one particular column of data. And what I would recommend is that you leave all those other columns of data, because once the 80-20 analysis is complete through this process, a lot of times that those additional columns of data will be helpful in helping you make additional business decisions, to make better decisions. For this example, I just wanted to keep things simple in terms of what we're looking at so that we don't get distracted with other columns of data. So let's go ahead and get started. In step 1, we want to create a count column. Okay, so what we want to do here is insert a column, and I'm going to call this customer count. And what we want to do with that is tally up the total number of customers in this particular example that we have. And so I'm going to put 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm going to highlight all 3 of these and drag it down. This is going to tell Google Spreadsheets that I want to use a series of numbers here. So I'm going to drag it all the way down to our last customer. So it tells us that we have 131 customers, okay? And here in column B, this is actually going to be your customer name. I just put the customer number here as a label, but this will actually be your customer's name or whatever the actual data that you're analyzing, okay? So let's look at step 2. We want to add totals to the data that we have here, okay? So let's go down and let's make sure we total this up. Let's put down that we have 131 customers here. We're going to bold that. And then here we want to actually sum the total of all the sales here. So we're going to do equals sum. And it looks like it's already highlighting all of the cells for us. But even if it doesn't do that for you, I'm going to show you how to sum it. So you do parentheses, and then you can just highlight all the cells that you want to add up. And we'll just drag this down like this. And once we get to the bottom here, then we can put a closed parentheses on it, as you can see there in the formula, and just hit return. So now we have, I'm going to bold this just so we can see it clearly. We have total sales. Okay. And we can put that there. We can make it look a little bit fancier here. Clean it up. Okay, so we have total sales, and we have this number here. So that's the adding the totals all the way up. So step 3, we want to create a cumulative column. So let me add a column here. And we'll say cumulative sales. Let's format it right so you can see it. So cumulative sales. So what we want to do here is we're going to do equals, and we're going to do this first cell here, and then we're just going to hit return. We just want to copy over the initial cell there, that data. So then now what we're going to do is equals this cell above, and we're going to do plus this cell here, and we'll hit return. And we'll see that this number is now the cumulative of these 2 numbers. And basically what this is telling us is that, you know, this amount of revenue is generated by these number of customers. So we're going to go ahead and drag this all the way down. Okay. And you'll see that this number totals this number. So we know we got that equation right. Okay. So let's go back up. Let's look at step 4. Step 4 is create percentage of data column. Okay. So let's add another column here. And let's call it, in this case, percent of sales. So percent of sales. Let's go ahead and highlight it here. Center everything here. Okay, so what we want to do is we actually want to do equals this number divided by, which is a forward slash, the total in sales here. So this cell here. And so what we'll have, in this case, it's C134 as the cell. And what we want to do in this equation, we can go ahead and hit return. And you'll see that you need to, in this case, I need to change the format to percent. You'll see that the first customer equals almost 26% of the sales in the business. So what we want to do with this equation before we drag it down is double click in, and we want to do it $C $134, and we'll go ahead and hit return. And what that's going to do is once we go to drag it here, it's going to make sure it stays on that total number at the very bottom, so that doesn't. So you'll see here that we get to 100%. That's what we're looking for. And don't flip out if you see like multiple 100%. This is very common, right? As you get down to the bottom, it's such a small percentage that they make up. It's not even 1%. So we go to the top. Okay, so now we've created the percent of data column. Now in step 5, we want to create the percent of count column. Okay, so we're going to add another column here. We're going to say percent of count, or in this case we can say percent of customers. Okay, and then we're going to center this. And so what we want to do now is very similar. We're going to do equals this number divided by our total number of customers at the bottom, 131, which is A134. So again, we're going to go in here, we're going to say $A, $134. And then we can hit return. And we're going to highlight this to make sure it turns out as a percentage. Then we're going to drag this down. And we get 100% at the bottom. Okay, so what we want to do here in step 6, now that we've got all the data that we're really looking for, is we want to label the 50% and the 80% row in the percent of sales. Okay, so we want to find the closest thing to 50% here is 51.37%. We're going to highlight this. Maybe we'll do light blue. Really doesn't matter the colors. And then we're going to find 80% right here. Okay, we're going to highlight that. Maybe we'll do bright yellow. And so if we look at the data, so now that we've got both 50% and 80% with the background color and labeled up, in step 7, we want to review this data and actually start executing in our business based on the feedback and the findings from the data. So initially, when you look at the data, what you'll see is that you've got 5 customers out of 131, I believe it was, that make up more than 50% of the revenues. Okay, and it's actually less than 4% of your total customers make up more than 50% of the revenue. And so what that really means is that we need to be looking at these customers and making sure that we're doing everything we can to improve sales from them, because they're obviously already the biggest spenders. We want to make sure we put lots of attention on making sure that those customers are happy, that there might be finding additional opportunities to sell more to them because they have the buying capacity, and also really looking at these customers in detail to better understand them, because they are your ideal prospect, they are your ideal buyer. And really understanding the demographics, psychographics around these customers will allow you to refine who you're looking for, so you can attract more customers that look more like them. So I would spend a lot of time really analyzing these customers and who they are and what they do and how they live, so that you could create avatars and personas that match this ideal buyer that you have. You might also spend some time down here finding out how you can get these customers to see the value that you have, to be more of a bigger buyer like these guys are. And then I'll go down to the 80% mark here. And again, the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of your efforts is going to produce 80% of your results. And in this case, it almost is exactly that, right? So 21% of the customers is producing just over 80% of the revenues. And if that number were a lot lower, let's just say that only 12% of the customers, let's just say this was 80% of the revenue over here, this company would be over leveraged, and if they lost a customer, it could be very detrimental to the business. So by being at this 21%, they've got a good balance here. This is how things should typically play out. In some cases, you'll find that it's 90-10, which means you're over leveraged on just a couple of customers. And what I'm doing here is, again, I'm kind of looking at these 28 customers, and I'm saying, what about these customers plays into the persona, the avatar of the buyer? And are there ways to, again, turn these other 20 plus customers into customers like these? Do they have the buying capacity? Are they not getting do they not understand the perceived value that we're trying to bring to them, et cetera? And then on the other side of things, I like to look at customer service and see which customers are having to use customer service the most, because if they're not in the top 80%, I might want to get rid of that customer, because if they're creating all this customer service issues and they don't really spend that much money with us, then I need to find a way to fix that. And in customer service, for my best customers, which ones are having to deal with customer service and why, and how can we fix that so our best customers get an even better experience, so they're happy to spend more money with us. So I hope that this will help you start to make better business decisions across the board throughout your business, and leverage this in step 1 of the business acceleration life cycle in the 80-20 analysis stage to really understand what's happening in your business right now so you can make better decisions all the time. So if you have any questions, reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you out. And otherwise, have a profitable day. We'll talk to you soon.